Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, MB. Today we're going to work on an equipment inventory, the one that I have on the left side down on the screen. As you can see, I'm carrying this key, and I also have a sashimi that it was on the map, and we have these three mysterious flowers. I'm gonna interact with them, and I just picked a rare orb, another one and another one. I can switch between them, and I should be able to give the food to the cat, but it's not implemented in this tutorial, but it will be. I set up some rules for this inventory. I'm implementing an equipment inventory. It only has 6 slots, which means you can only pick up six different items. I also said that you can pick up as many items of the same type as you want. There is no limit on that. And at the moment there is no way to exchange the items or drop them. So as soon as you fill that equipment inventory, that's it. We could extend this and create different inventories. One, for example, that is a type of box or chest or something similar that you have on the map, and then you can equip and unequip some of the items and leave them on that box or something like that. In this tutorial, I'm just sticking with this equipment inventory, but extending this and make that wouldn't be difficult. Let's start checking what I have on my project. Remember that you can download the project files on the description below, and there will be also a written tutorial to go along with this. So for this equipment inventory, I have different elements. I have on this map different interactives. I have these 3 flowers, which they will give me that yellow orb. And I also have the sashimi around here and the key around there. The 3 of them are the same type. They are basic interactives, and they also implement an interface to be able to interact between the character and the item. I explained all of that in a different video, so I will link the video. All of these type of interactives, which are item interactive, they all have an item ID and a boolean to set item to collected, which indicates if the item was collected or not, so we can disable everything. And this item ID, which will tell us what is the item that we need to collect and extract information about that. I'm using a data asset to collect information about the item that we're going to collect. And here's the database. All of these are item collectables, and I have some information. The item ID, the name, the description, the actor, which is, well, it's a blueprint that is the element that I'm going to collect and spawn on top of the player, and a UI, so I can, a texture, so I can show this to the UI. So these item IDs are the ones that are set in each element right there. This data table is linked in the GameMode right there, because that way we can, the GameMode is available in any actor, so we can have functions, global functions to find the item, the information of the item, and wrap that information for the UI or for the player. I also have a few keys, input keys for the player, which are this SwitchItem and free hands, and interact. Those are the 3 main actions that you can do. Interact is any interactable on the scene, for example those ones, or the cat that you can interact with. Switch item is just to be able to switch between items, so we can have them on the hands. And my idea is to use that for the quest system that I implemented a few videos ago, which you can complete a quest if, for example, the cat asks you for food. You can give the cat the sashimi that you have on the hands at that moment, no any other one. It's just something that I wanted to do. Then we have free hands, so we can remove all of that. I have these elements, these three keys, input keys, linked on the player controller, and they call the character. So let me show you what I mean. So these are the three EU functions. They have to be EU functions, that is important. And then I have the setup input component, the three of them right there. Each one of them call their functions, and internally I'm calling my character and different functions because I have everything, the rest of the logic for items on the character. I also have the current inventory on the character. There are different ways that you can do this, that you can handle this. This is the way I like it. So I like to think of player controller as a controller, which has logic, and then the character has the visual representation. And in this case, an inventory is more of a logic theme, but I decided to include that on the character because it was easier for me for a small project to access, because you can access the player controller and the character from everywhere. One important thing to mention is this consume input. This is because if you want to use this interact in somewhere else, you don't include this. This action will consume completely this, and you cannot use this same in a different place, for example in a UI, in a widget. Let's go and check the game mode, which is this class. I have the data asset ItemDatabase here as a property, and then I have find item to find items on this database, which with find item implementation, so I can use this in C++ and on blueprints. This is important if you want to do any kind of operation in C++ and then you want to do the rest on the blueprint. You need to use both. You will implement these in C++, not this one. No, you will implement this one, sorry, in C++, but you will call this in C++. Let's take a look at this one, which it has nothing complicated. I have this success, this is a reference, and this is handy for me. I can return the item there, and I set this to true or false. It could be the other way around, but yeah, I find the item and I return the item. So all I'm doing is just go to iterate on the database, and it's just a normal, it's like a normal list. And if I find the item ID, I will set this to success and return that item. That is linked here, item ID, so I can access this everywhere. And that is important because that needs to be set, the blueprint game mode has to be set there. Now let's take a look, because before moving on, let's take a look at this ItemDatabase type. So the ItemDatabase, which is this one, is declared, the structure is declared on a header that I call definitions, which is very handy because I use that everywhere. So we can go to definitions.h, which also is linked here. That's important. And is this is we have the item data, which is the U data asset, and then we have a tier rate of F item with this US root, which is the blueprint type because we want to access this on Blueprint for the UI and other. So we have the item ID, which is the one that is going to match with the interactable, the name, the description of the item, then the item actor. This is the one that we're going to spawn on top of the character. A U texture today for the icon, and this is just a reference to have the spawn item and the quantity. Okay, I have these two elements because I'm reusing this F item on the character. So every time I collect one of the items, I will keep a reference on the character inventory of this item, and I will also have a reference to the spawned item and the number of items that I have collected. We will see that in a bit. And this is the main structure for all the items in the game. Let's take a look now to the how to character, which is where I have pretty much all the logic. So, okay, this is all we need for this simple equipment inventory. First, we have an equipment inventory of F-type item. Then we have the total equipment slots. I decided that they're gonna be 6. If we, for example, have like a character that sells stuff and one of the things is slots, we could increase this and have that type of logic that you can have more slots and have 10, for example. This is just a boolean to indicate that we have or we don't have an item on the hand, so we're holding that. This is the item, the index, which will be one of these. This is because it's easy, so I can access straight away to the equipment inventory. And this is the ID, which is on the hands. Probably this is not necessary because we can access the ID there, but yeah, it's handy. Then we have some functions. Add item. Every time we interact with an interactable, we use this add item. This will be to remove item, and I think I was planning to use this for the quest, not this give item. Let's just remove that. Okay. Has free inventory slots indicates if we have any free slots, or the equipment inventory is less than the total equipment slots. And this is just for the UI, which is the last step I will show you later. Every time we add or remove an item, we will go on refresh inventory and we will see the number of items decrease or increase, or a new item. Switch item and free hands are both for switching the 3D item on the hands, or free hands, which is okay. I don't want to carry anything. Add item on the character. So first thing, what we do is iterate on the equipment inventory and find if we already have this type of item. If we have that, we will increase 1 in quantity. Then what we do is, if we don't have anything on the hands at the moment, we will use this, we will show this item. So if we have something on the hands, nothing will happen. If we don't have anything, we will show this thing. So what we do is, if we don't have anything on the hands, we'll mark this as an item on the hands. We set this to true, and what we do is, in the equipment inventory on this index, we will show this specific item. This is because I'm gonna have, as soon as I have a new type of item that I acquire, it will be spawned on top of the player. So we will have in total the 6 of them. As soon as we collect six type of items, we will have all of them spawned, and we will hide them and show them. That's a very, very easy way to do this type of thing. It's not the optimal thing, because imagine if you have an equipment inventory of 12 elements or 100, it wouldn't be nice to have all of them on top of all your hands. But because I wanted to do this visual thing, I decided to go this route, but it's not the best. Then in one of the videos I showed how to put the hands up in the air and move them back, and that's why I have this animator set alpha right arm. I will also link that below so you know how to handle that. It's just that it will make the hands go up. And finally we call on refresh inventory to refresh the UI. If we don't find the item, it will move on, and if we already have all the slots completely with something, we won't add this item, so nothing will happen. Okay, if we don't have that item, we need to find the information of that item on the game mode. So we access the game mode, we need to do a cast, and if it's there, we will find the item with that function I showed earlier with the item ID, which is there. Then next thing we will do, if the item actor, which is the actor that we are going to spawn on top of the player, is not done, we spawn that. And if everything is correct, we will get a new item for our inventory, and we just copy all the information over from this item ID. The next thing we do is this spawn item, we will attach that to the carry item point, which is declared on the character. It's a using component that is on the blueprint of the character. We set the location of the spawn item on the carry item point, and we add the equipment inventory. And we do something similar. If we don't have anything on the hands, we will call this again, so the robot will put the hands up. We mark this item as the one that is on the hands. We also show the item. This is confusing, but set actor hidden in game means, okay, show the actor in game. And if we have any previously, we set this to true. And finally we call again on refresh inventory. Okay, with this function we can take a look at what's going on with the interactable. So okay, for example, this interactable, this orb item is the item interactive, and it implements an interact interface. So if we click play now and we stay close to that and we interact with this, we'll collect that. So we will call the function AddItem. We do that again, it will collect anyone and that. And now if I go here and collect this one, we will add that, but we still have that on the hands. So yeah, we can switch between them and we can free the hands. Now if I go to this one, the key, and take this one, it will show that one because we don't have anything on the hands. Now finally, let's take a look at how this type of item works. So let's open this. Okay, so they all extend from basic interactive, which has a root scene and a trigger. This is because I duplicate this type of thing over and over again, so I decided to create a basic interactive with these two elements. And then I normally add a static mesh or whatever I need extra. Whatever. So I usually just static mesh component and then I add something. And then I usually adjust this trigger and whatever I need. So let's take a look quickly at that, which doesn't have anything. This is basically the basic interactive has the visual representation, which is the trigger, and the interactable has different functions, which is also explained in a different video. But if we go to the interactable real quick, yeah, so it has the name of the the item, quest ID, don't worry about that. And this will be used on the player character for everything, for all of the interactables. Okay, let's go back to that. So what we have is the item ID, which is going to be the item that we collect. Then we have this on item collected. This is going to be called when the player interacts with this actor, this basic interactive, and we'll do the rest. And then we have this be item collected, which indicates if we already collected the item or not. This is part of the interface. Because we are using an interface, we need to always include anything that is on the interface. And the main function that we want is this on interact implementation, which is where the magic happens. So this will be called from the player every time we are close inside the trigger of one interactable, and we press the A key on the pad or the E on the pad. It will call this on interact. And what we do is simple. If the item has been collected, don't do anything, and if not, let's check if we have free slots, and then if we do, we can add this item, and on the player everything will happen. So we will find the item and collect it and all that. And then we call on item collected. So the blueprint based on this will get a notification. And let me show you what I do, which is basically when I receive this, I make sure that this is false. Yeah. And then I call the parent. So yeah, we'll do the rest, and then sound. Then I make this static mesh invisible, and I also disable the collision. So we are done with that, with this item. And I do the same for the rest of the items. Interactables. Let's go back now to the main character. I'm going to show you a few things. If you were curious, this is the carry item point, which is just a sync component, and that is where I spawned every element. And remember, all of them, every time we add an item, an item that we didn't have in the past and is new, a new item, will spawn and hide there. Now that interaction that happens when we're close to an interactable, what happens is from the player controller this action will be go, and this is the current interactive, and if we have any, which means if we are inside of a trigger, we will call that function on interact. All of this is explained on that video, but it's basically that. If we're inside the trigger, we will execute this on interact, and any actors or elements which implements that interface will do whatever it needs to do, but only affecting this current interactive in this case. Okay, a few more functions. Remove item, which hasn't been used in this project just yet, but we can use it for quest, for example. What we do is the reverse. We find the item on the equipment inventory and we remove one in quantity. If we don't have more items of that time, we will check if that item was on the hands and remove that from there. We do that. If this is 0, we will free the hands. So this means we don't have more units, so we free the hands completely. If we have found the item, we keep this item index to remove, because all we are doing in here is just check to remove the quantity and hide the item from the hands. And this is only going to happen, we're going to do this when there is no more units of this type. So then we come here, and what we do is we destroy the spawn item and we remove that element from the list. And this only happens if we don't have more quantity of this type. If not, we don't do anything else, just remove the quantity. We again refresh inventory. Next is has free inventory slots, and this is only just a check if we have more. We have still slots empty. We have some slots. Now switch and free hands. So what we do here is very simple. It's just okay, if we have items and if we don't have items on the hands, we will take the first one and just show it. I do the same, record those on these variables and do the animation with the robot. If we have items on the hands, what we do is just simply hide the current one, which will be this one, go to the next one, and if it's more than the equipment inventory slot, we go back to the 0 one and we show that item. Finally, we record that. That's it, nothing else, so it's not complex. And free hands. Free hands is just set everything to false and hide the current index on hands. Finally, let's take a look at this on refresh inventory and see what's going on when we add or remove any items. So that's an event that is received from the blueprint main character and is received here, event on refresh inventory. All I'm doing here is call a function in my internal inventory UI and call refresh inventory and send the current equipment inventory. This UI, or it's this quest. No. This UI is this inventory which I create as soon as the begin play happens, and I keep a reference. It only contains an horizontal box with each slot. Each slot is a inventory slot type thing because I record the information of I send the item, and each element will do whatever it needs to do. It will show the name and the icon. So yeah, I create the inventory, then I keep a reference to that, I add it to the viewport, and I hide it. Then when this happens, if this is valid, I will show the inventory and refresh the inventory. Okay, so refresh inventory. This is the reference of the current inventory of the type item, which is declared here. So I clear that and I set a new reference. Then what I do is this slot list is the slots that is contained here. So it's a reference to each one of those slots. This is prepared here on the event graph, and what I do is I take the inventory list, which is this horizontal box, and I simply go through them and I keep a reference. I add unique. I need to use a cast for each element and add it to the slot list and make it hidden, because when this happens, there is no inventory. So we come here, and what we do is simply just go through all the list. I make always hidden for the first time, but then when this is completed, I go through this inventory and I check that this index is is less than the number of slot list. And then I just set the slot, which is basically send this slot, and that I make that visible. So every time I add or remove an item, I will do this process. Basically clean everything and set everything again. This set slot is an internal function that I create for myself. Each slot contains this, which is just the picture and the item name. And what happens if I set the item and then I basically break this item, so you can do this break, and access to all the information, which remember is received from the player. So the player has the inventory and is sent tasks to the UI. And I simply just slot icon, I set the slot icon on the texture, and the quantity and the name is set on this text. And pretty much that's it. So if I go back again, as soon as I grab this item, the whole inventory will be refreshed. So clean everything and show that. Then next time it will increase the quantity. So every time I do that, I refresh everything. And that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and if it was helpful, please like, subscribe, and see you next time on the next video. Bye!